Welcome back to another episode of Locks and Longshots. We are getting super close to the start of the postseason, and the college football playoff race is heating up with some very interesting storylines developing. This week, the slate is a little bit lackluster, but we got a lot of things to talk about outside of the matchups this week, so that should be a lot of fun. We got the boys back together, Josh Bartosik, Dylan Price, Justin Chevalella. Boys, here's some numbers for you. 3 weeks till the reveal of the college football playoff bracket. 2 weeks left in the regular season. In about 1 month and 2 days until the first game of the college football playoff. I can't believe we're that close. I feels like this season has flown by. I don't know if that is the same sentiment for you guys, but how we doing on this Monday evening with, like I said, just 2 weeks left in the regular season?
Yeah, Thomas, a little tired here on this Monday night, but what I will say is that as cool as it is, or as sad it is as it is, that there's only, a couple weeks left, the playoffs actually outlast what we have left, the 3 weeks of the regular season and conference championships compared to the 25 weeks that it takes the playoffs to finish up. So I guess we still have plenty of college football coming our way, so can't really be disappointed yet.
Josh, how we doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think tired's a pretty good sentiment. I think maybe part of the reason that this year might have flown by is that there's nobody in the state of Pennsylvania or really in the area of Happy Valley that's really been, have to worry about what Penn State's playoff implications look like in the past 2 months, ever since they lost to UCLA. So the season's been kind of a wash from that standpoint for a lot of us that still have a lot of ties to Penn State. So that might be a little bit of a reason why it's felt like it's gone by super fast, because there's really been no reason to watch besides just to hope that Terry Smith got that first W, which he finally did this past week.
Yeah, it was good to see that. Nice little celebration there. Dylan, do you feel the same way?
I tend to. I think it's fascinating that as of, I think, Tuesday of last week, it might have been, don't quote me on this, we were actually only a day, or it was the stat I'm thinking of, Justin, I know your brain's ticking too. It was like the exact same amount of time since opening day to the last day of the college football season in the national.
That was a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
Like last Sunday
insane.
Or something.
I mean, we are still that's not that big of a disparity. It feels like this season has flown by. I think probably for us, because our vested interest was obviously in the Nittany Lions, and our season was done in October. So since then, everything's been cake. But I think it's been a really exciting season. I think that the parity in a lot of conferences has led to pretty much the most uncertain college football playoff picture we could have cooked up. And I think we're far from done yet. So I think it's an interesting time in the college football landscape. But I would also echo the guys' sentiments of I'm tired. But instead of Justin, I guess, since we did an opposite order, Thomas, how are you?
I'm also tired. It's been a long week already.
It's Monday.
I know. I'll tell you what, it's been a long week already. But I'll tell you what, I'm excited. We got a week and a half till Thanksgiving. I think we're all looking forward to some time with family and definitely food for some of us. So
you can say all. Don't act like you don't eat too.
Well, I'm the first person to say.
I don't want to be that guy to look for attention here, but not everyone is going home to see their family and getting that Thanksgiving food on Thanksgiving.
I think it's just me and you, Thomas. I'm going to be
Dylan's parents,
Dylan's family's going to visit them, but
yeah.
I don't think I have that luxury. I technically still don't have my schedule for next week, but
Thanksgiving is the 3 F's, right? Food, football, and family. I feel like that's the way to go.
The fourth one was falling asleep, but
I'll definitely get
that's afterwards. Yeah,
I'll definitely get the football part of it. That's the fun. I still get one of them.
Well, you get food.
Yeah,
you eat something.
Of course, I get food.
What do you think he is?
We'll move on from there.
In fact, I already have the turkey and mashed potatoes in my fridge. I'm cooking them up tomorrow.
There you go. Yeah, he'll probably burn it, but
no. But my smoke detector goes off even when I'm cooking toast. It's very sensitive.
The one in our apartment used to do that too. So
no, that was when I cooked bacon. That was a little bit more reasonable than toast. I'm not burning the toast either. If anything, it's undercooked toast.
You bring food up with us, and it just goes down the wrong path. So let's get back into it. Let's sound the alarm a little bit, because there are some teams that took some big L's in this past week.
That's where you're going first.
What?
That's the way you're going first. There's breaking news today, and you're going to talk about what happened last week.
Justin, am I allowed to recap last week?
Fine, I guess.
Can I not recap last week
Go
before
ahead,
we move
go
on
ahead.
to the?
Go ahead, man.
I'm gonna
Take a
recap.
risk. Take a risk, man.
I'm
Take
gonna
a
recap
risk.
this last week, and then we will move on to the news that we are going to start, which is our headlines, which is the correct order that we normally do things here. If you haven't been here for the last 10 episodes, but
I know the
USC
news usually starts with the biggest headline, but I guess we can go elsewhere today.
There's
All
that
right.
journalism degree going to good use.
Sounds good. All right. I'll go quick for you then, Justin.
Thank you.
USF took a bad loss to Navy. Oregon beats Minnesota. Michigan narrowly beats Northwestern. Virginia got a nice win over Duke. Miami beat NC State. Justin, I'm sorry. BYU beat TCU. USC beat Iowa in a good win. Notre Dame didn't beat Pitt by 110-0, but they did beat them in controlled fashion.
It felt like that was the score.
Yeah. Alabama took a big loss to Oklahoma. The SEC championship is getting real interesting. And Georgia piled it on against Texas in that big matchup. And now we will get into our headline, which I think we all have the same headline for this week. There was some big news, some big news that dropped today. I believe it was it Pete Thamel that had it first?
Yes.
Pete Thamel had it first. James Franklin, former Penn State head coach, he is headed to the Hokies, Virginia Tech. This is kind of a move that I think some of us saw coming. It seemed like early on it was between Virginia Tech or Arkansas, as well as maybe some flirtations with Florida and some of those other bigger programs. But it seemed like Virginia Tech and Arkansas were the two front runners. Virginia Tech lands it. They spoke about it a little bit on College Game Day, kind of, mentioning that things were kind of building, and then it came to fruition here today. And there's a couple of different things that, go with that, both advantages and disadvantages for both Virginia Tech and Penn State when you look at things. And we'll go to our resident Penn State and Virginia Tech super fan, Mr. Justin Chevalier. I mean, I'll put it on the table for you just so that you can kind of highlight them, but there's some money implications that have to do with Penn State, and there's some recruiting implications that have to do with Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I mean, I think the simple fact is that if you're a Penn State fan, if you're a college football fan in general and are worried about the money that your school is throwing around, you're dumb and you're in it for the wrong reasons. At the end of the day, we're not paying James Franklin's buyout. I mean, you could say that our tuition went to it, but if you actually understand the economics of institutions, that's not true at all. For the most part, I think a little bit goes to his contract, but in terms of buyout, that was fully funded by the athletic department and their separate budget. So if you're saying all that stuff and caring about the financial implications, then you must be either a donor or in the athletic department. Me as a fan, I couldn't care less about the money implications. And for those who don't know, the buyout went from $49 million down to $9 million. Penn State and James Franklin agreed to that, plus James Franklin obviously getting paid from Virginia Tech. That is a positive for Penn State, but this move is more so a positive for Virginia Tech. That's where I wanted to start. I've got my Hokies sweatshirt on again. Shout out to my brother Timothy, graduated from Virginia Tech a couple of years ago. I don't think he ever saw a winning season. I went down there for 3 games and I never saw a win at Lane Stadium. We're already looking to plan a trip down to Blacksburg for this fall because I think James Franklin is the right hire for Virginia Tech. If you look at what he did at Penn State, 6 New Year's 6 bowl games, 4 New Year's 6 bowl wins, the CFP, and most importantly for Virginia Tech, he had a top 20 recruiting class every single year that he was at Penn State. And if you think, okay, well, Penn State has those resources, Virginia Tech doesn't. You got to remember, Virginia Tech just poured an extra $50 million, and it might be growing more, into their athletic department. James Franklin is going to have these resources. And on top of that, he's kind of got that whole little area, the DMV, Pennsylvania, parts of Ohio, even though Ohio State really has that. But he's got a little bit of Ohio even under locks with his recruiting. And that should scare the ever-living crap out of Penn State fans. And that it doesn't really matter who Penn State hires, because James Franklin, you've got to look at it and you've got to face the fact that he is one of the best recruiters in the country. Sure, maybe he can't win the big game, but he knows how to recruit. And if I'm Penn State, I'm scared because of that. Because if you look at it, you've got players on this team that still have eligibility. I got a list in front of me. Most importantly, Tony Rojas, Amari Campbell, Anthony Donko. There's some other guys like freshman Matt Outen, who a lot of people were high on coming out of high school. He's a Virginia guy. This is scary, uncharted territory that Penn State hasn't really seen the last couple of years, especially with UVA climbing up with Tony Elliott out of nowhere. So now Penn State is facing Virginia Tech and James Franklin plus UVA plus, Maryland, if you want to go there. I know they haven't had success lately. This area looks a lot different to recruit. So if I'm Penn State, I'm a little scared. And I end it with this in saying that I think, and this is I know this is going to be bold, and I ask that you just let me finish the sentence before you go after me. If you told Pat Kraft on the day he fired James Franklin that James Franklin would be going to a team or a program that has a rich history of college football, can pack a stadium, and is in the past been good with recruiting and recruits generally the same area, I don't think Pat Kraft fires James Franklin on that day. I think he waits out the inevitable and fires Franklin down the road. This way, Virginia Tech, I'm not saying he was looking at Virginia Tech because he was caring about the Penn State program at the time, but I'm just saying Pat Kraft, I don't think makes that decision on that day. I think he waits it out. If he had, we have 2020 vision. We know what happened now. If he had that 2020 vision back then, I think he waits it out and has Franklin, kind of destined somewhere else at some other point. But I think this is a great hire for Virginia Tech. I think this is a potential disaster for Penn State. I'm not someone saying that Franklin shouldn't have been fired. He should have been. But I am saying this could backfire, certainly.
I think there's a couple things that I want to take from that. The first is I think we can all agree this is I don't know if I would say honestly, a home run hire for Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
I feel like that's safe to say. We can all agree with that. James Franklin is someone we all are high on, obviously. And Virginia Tech, especially in a year where, especially this year where the ACC seems to just be kind of wide open for anybody to take it. Next few years could be the same way. So definitely Virginia Tech in a spot here. The one thing I wanted to point out, and I'll go to Dylan next just because he was kind of, a little bit questioning that comment, like you said. The Penn State fans have to realize that there are going to be players that go with James Franklin. Like, that is going to be inevitable. There are going to be some big names that Penn State would love to keep that are either going to go with James Franklin or they're just going to transfer in general. That is the nature of this sport. There is, the transfer portal era has turned into, if your coach leaves, you're going with them or you're leaving. It's just not a big thing where a lot of people stay. So if there's Penn State fans thinking, oh yeah, we're just going to be able to keep our roster and move on with the new coach, you're in for a rude awakening. There are going to be quite a few players, I have to imagine, that will go with James Franklin. There's going to be some recruits that go with James Franklin as well. I know we've seen some recruits flip to other schools, but now that James Franklin is solidified at Virginia Tech now becomes a hot spot for Penn State recruits to flip. So I want to point that out too. Dylan, I'll go to you next because that was an interesting statement made by Justin. I don't know if I disagree with it, but I don't know if I fully agree with it. So I go to you now to kind of touch on how you think, this affects Penn State and how Pat Kraft maybe would have gone on with the decision.
Let's just get the Virginia Tech side out of it first, because I think that's the quickest one to kind of knock out. I think there was two pretty much clear destinations, and I know you said early in the process, but I think it really did go down to the wire. And I think the thing with James is that maybe he wanted to stay in the Power 2 conference in the SEC or the Big Ten, but James Franklin's a really smart guy. We all know that at the end of the day. He knows that his easiest route, as he watches the ACC continue to beat up on each other this season and look like they shouldn't even get a team in the college football playoff right now, and that's a further conversation that I'm sure we'll have in a little bit here. But I think when it comes to the ACC, you can do what you did at Penn State and make the college football playoff and at least get into the conference title game, and then you really got a shot at the college football playoff. Because the ACC is some seasons it is top heavy, and some seasons it's going to be hard to get through the mix, especially as a couple other teams make moves, including Florida State in all likelihood in the coming days, weeks, months, whatever. And it is an interesting time to join that conference. But I look at what's happening in the SEC right now with LSU, Florida, both having coaching openings, how quickly fans have turned on Kalen DeBoer at points in Tuscaloosa. I look at Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin and what could happen there. And I see a lot of opportunity right now. And then Eli Drinkwitz, too. What could happen with Mizzou? A lot of opportunity for more big names to even come to the SEC, and that to get even more top heavy. And so I think this was a brilliant move by Franklin in that regard. I think it was a great move by Virginia Tech. They scored a home run hire. And I think that was the best way and the only way you can really bill it. You got a guy who was, to all accord, a top 10 football coach heading into this season in a number of power rankings and lists, maybe even higher on some people's lists after taking a team to the doorstep of a national title game a year ago. And you got him probably for a little bit of a better rate. And to go to your school when a year ago, I don't think anybody would have believed you if you said James Franklin was going to Virginia Tech. If anything, at that point, people would have said, oh, maybe he's going to a SEC powerhouse or, USC or some Southern school or Western Coast school, but whatever. On the Penn State side of it, I really got to push back on Justin's statement because at the end of the day, there are so many other ways we could have looked at the what ifs if they had kept him too. What if guys just started sitting out for the season? What if you continue to lose the locker room? What if you continued to burn any last goodwill you had with the fan base? Because it got bad, it was only going to get worse. There are fans. We all know Penn State. We all know that fan base. There are fickle fans who would have stayed in that stadium for the remainder of the season to boo him, and probably worse than that, because we've seen the fan base get to that heights before. For how much we love them, it would have got messy. It would have got uglier. And I think it would have only hurt the program and the reputation that they've built in the past year and a half, 2 years with getting that alignment. I think you would have lost more boosters, donors, trustees, and you certainly would have lost the fan base. So if that means you lose some of the recruits in that class, if that means you lose guys currently on the roster, one, that was going to happen anyways. Same thing with the recruits. And you sacrifice that for the DMV area. And the one thing I'll agree with you on, Justin, and I think we've all said this since the moment he was fired, you're not doing this knowing you have a sure thing. Anyone who says that Penn State knows exactly who they wanted to hire since day one, they don't. The chips have completely been flipped upside down 1,000 times with extensions and losses and wins and whatever it may be. I don't think Penn State knows who Penn State wants to hire right now. And I think there's guys, I think we can easily look at if maybe there's an Iron Bowl loss that comes Alabama's way. Certainly the Kalen DeBoer chatter is going to get louder again. Brent Key, my personal favorite dark horse, and Bob Chesney still, and a lot of those guys. But I think there's still a large portion of the fan base too that you're going to have a hard time selling that hire, because I think there's a lot of people who think if you're going to fire Franklin, you need to go for an even bigger name. And that's hard to do in this landscape. I'm urging Penn State fans to be patient. And I even want to double down on that because of Justin's point of the recruiting area is certainly going to get dipped into. I will say that helps Chesney's case because he's been recruiting in this exact area. And I think for DeBoer, that all goes out the window. And I think to some extent, you hope that if you're Brent Key, if that's the guy you get, you put all the resources behind him and strap a rocket to him and see if you can push him to the top. So I think there's certainly a lot of ways to look at it, but I'm certainly not as doom and gloom as Justin is.
I think the point I want to make going off of that is a little bit off of both of your points, but because James Franklin does have strongholds in a lot of the DMV and, that all of those areas that we're talking about, I think it becomes more important that Penn State does get a big hire. I think at this point, you're looking for somebody who can recruit as well as James Franklin. I mean, I know it's going to be tough because, like Justin mentioned, it was, a top 20 class every year. But I think it becomes much more important. And I want to go to Josh here because when you look at some of these hires and, or potential hires, and you look at these options, we've seen from Kalen DeBoer down to, Brian Hartline as an offensive coordinator, where does Penn State have to look at this point? And, what is kind of the timeline for it? Because you're starting to come into the situation where recruits are going to start flipping quickly with James Franklin being hired.
Yeah, and I think Dylan brought up a great point that I don't think Penn State knows what Penn State wants. I think if Alabama hadn't lost this past weekend, and if that fan base wasn't, so quick to turn on Kalen DeBoer, that would be an option you could easily turn, away from. But there's been a lot of chatter that Alabama fans don't want Kalen DeBoer there, that Kalen DeBoer doesn't even want to be in Alabama. Brian Hartline's been a guy since day one. I mean, the Urban Meyer of it all. And the thing with Penn State is that, I mean, you knew that you were going to lose recruits. And I think they are going to start dropping like flies the second that this becomes officially official once Virginia Tech, rolls out all the stops and whatnot. But I think some people have to realize too that, I mean, yeah, it's going to suck to lose guys on the roster, lose some of those recruits, but that's also a roster that currently sits at 4-6 and that had lost 3 straight games and had not yet won a big game. Like, that was a roster that James Franklin completely constructed and was pretty much was the exact same until Drew Aller went down. Yeah, you lost Tony Rojas during early on in the season as well. But regardless, like, that's a roster that wasn't getting the job done in the entirety of Franklin's career, really hadn't gotten the job done. So, I mean, there's a little bit of, glass half full in that. I think a lot of people were expecting Penn State to have a guy by now. I think the problem is that it's not just, we talk a lot about the ACC beating up on themselves. And it's easy to make fun of the ACC because there's not, as many ranked teams. But the SEC is also eating itself alive, but it's been doing that conference more good than harm, whereas the ACC, it does more harm than good, where, like Dylan said, Eli Drinkwitz could be, a very viable option this week, or it could be a bunch of these SEC guys that Penn State might be thinking of, or these fans want, aren't available until mid-January, and that's going to be too late. So I think Penn State, it's a risk regardless. It was a risk when they fired James Franklin, and it's now a big risk now that he has somewhere else that he's going, and the fact that Penn State is kind of really up in the air on when is someone going to get hired. I think for Penn State fans, the longer it is, maybe in a slight positive sense, you might feel a little bit better about it because it means it's someone that's, potentially making a deep run in the playoff. I mean, even a guy like Chesney. JMU can make a run for the playoff. They're one of the top group of 5 teams left standing. So I think a lot of the best options for Penn State are going to be guys that are currently poised to make a deep run for the playoff or at least have a shot. So I think for Penn State, you're still quite a few weeks away from really having a decision, especially with this big shift now with James Franklin going to the ACC, which I do think is the best spot for him to go. I think he can easily be a contender in the ACC for years to come because it's just a better conference for him to find a way to, get 10 wins. It's been been over a decade since the last time that Virginia Tech had 10 wins in a season. And I think he's a guy that can easily get them back to that. But I think Penn State fans, you have to have a lot of patience because I don't think it's going to come anytime soon.
I'd love to just chime in since you guys both brought up coaching candidates within your answers. I see what you guys are saying, but I think there's also a strong case to be made about maybe keeping Terry Smith. I think between his press conference earlier today, where he really showed what Penn State meant to him. And I think back to when Marcus Freeman took over at Notre Dame. I think we all remember that locker room video of where I don't remember who came out and made the announcement, but then Marcus Freeman walks out and all those guys mob him. I think the same thing could happen if they keep Terry Smith. I obviously don't think that excites Penn State and the fan base as much as if they wait out one of these playoff guys, playoff bound guys, I guess, or playoff contending guys. But I think my personal favorite, and because it gets things moving quicker for Penn State, I think people should back Terry Smith more than they are. But that's just, I wanted to add his name in because I don't think you can forget his name in this search.
He does a lot of recruiting too. Like he does a good chunk of recruiting for Penn State. I think regardless of who they hire, if they stay with Terry or I think we're all under the same consensus that Terry Smith has to be on this staff one way or another by the time the next year rolls around, whether that's in a head coaching role or more of a recruiting role or more of, a general manager sort of sense, whatever it is that he does, he has to stay with that Penn State team because he lives and breathes and he lives, breathes and dies Penn State football. You can't have, when was the last time you saw emotion like that in a press conference from a head coach for Penn State?
Or any team or any program really too.
Pretty much.
When James Franklin apologized last year for not answering a question or whatever that situation was.
Well, that was a little bit different.
Way different.
Also, James Franklin still hasn't given a thank you to any of the fans at Penn State like every other coach that's been fired.
Okay. No, at that point, I want to chime in because I'm tired of that discourse. at the end of the day, I wanted to move on from this conversation like 3 minutes ago, but I also know that we all have things to say in this. But this whole narrative that he owes Penn State something, he does. Listen, it has been vital to his career. But if any of the four of us got fired from a job after 12 years that helped us get to another level, and then we were able to get another pretty solid job and got a lot of money to do it, our feelings are still going to be hurt. The money doesn't matter. It does matter a lot. I think we'd all take that money in a heartbeat. But the feeling, Franklin has a right to have his feelings hurt. And especially if there was this rumored dissension over the summer with him going above Pat Kraft's head to the Board of Trustees. I think this has been brewing for some time, and this rift between him and Pat and him and the board, however it may be. So if any of that's true, and even if it isn't true, if you got your dream job, and he's a Pennsylvania guy, you got your dream job, and yeah, it was great. Yeah, you got a lot of money. Yeah, you moved on and still got a pretty good job. Still was your dream job, and you got fired from it. And now you look at it and go, oh, wow. And I guess he hasn't put a statement out yet. He should. Yeah, I agree with you on that. But he doesn't owe Penn State anything to put it out.
I'm not saying he owes them. I'm saying
he has a press conference. He has a press conference 10 a.m. on Wednesday. I'd expect him to probably at some point say he's very grateful for his time at Penn State, and he thanks everyone that was involved.
I think that would be when it happens. But here's
and you got to move on at some point. He's the ex-girlfriend now for Penn State. You got to just move on at some point.
Well, yeah. I mean, but just to really quickly go off of your point about like the bad blood between Kraft and Franklin, Brian Kelly is quite literally suing the University of Louisiana State, and he still made a statement before he did that. So like that doesn't necessarily mean anything to me.
Well, he's on a significant PR campaign, so maybe we don't compare the two of them.
I'm not necessarily saying that James Franklin needs to give an apology or a thank you to Penn State, because quite frankly,
with the way on the edge of the seat till he does.
Well, no, not really. I just find it interesting that he's the only person. I'm not saying he has to, because quite frankly, the way that some of the fans treat him, regardless of the success he had, I don't know if he really.
Wait, you want me to handle this? I'll just go back to being James Franklin, like here in this picture, and I'll just say I thank Penn State for my 12 years. And just
I don't like this and the horrendous side profile of me in that one. But yeah, but no, okay. I mean,
regardless, I think we can
attack more than Penn State, wasn't it?
Regardless, I think we all agree Virginia Tech made a great hire. We all agree James Franklin did a lot of good at Penn State. And I think we all agree this has advantages and disadvantages for Penn State, because now you're looking at recruiting issues, but you save a lot of money with the buyout. So I definitely think it's going to be an interesting – I honestly think it could happen in the next couple weeks for Penn State. I know Josh mentioned, I think he said 3 or 4. But, I mean, hey, Lane Kiffin just got a deadline for deciding if he's staying in Ole Miss or not.
To Penn State. He's going to go to LSU or Florida.
Well, right, but I'm saying once
other coaches are going to get that deadline too. Eli Drinkwitz will get it. I doubt like someone like Chesney at a smaller school would get a deadline, but you never know. They got to move on and find their coach too.
Yeah, once Lane Kiffin, if he takes that Florida or LSU job, then you have to start thinking, okay, candidates are going to be looking more at Penn State. So then you start thinking about, those hires. But I think.
Oh, and there's still schools to fire their coaches. There's still more coming.
True. Very true. The last thing I want to talk about, and something that Justin wanted to talk about, and we'll mention it kind of quickly. Now that James Franklin is there, we know his history of having success in the regular season, struggling a little bit to win the big game. At what point does Virginia Tech now become, I wouldn't say a powerhouse in the ACC? Maybe, it's too early to say that, but at what point do they start and potentially start competing for some bowl games and championships? Well, Justin, we'll start with you.
They'll be in a bowl game next year. They are going to make noise in the ACC next year. Maybe they don't make the playoffs. They don't make the conference championship, but I can tell you one thing for sure. James Franklin and the Virginia Tech Hokies will play in a, meaningful bowl game, not the Pinstripe Bowl. They'll probably finish 8-4 and get a pretty good bowl game if I had to guess. Now, in terms of a longer term plan and future, I think 3 years, and you're going to be talking about James Franklin and Virginia Tech being, an established powerhouse in the ACC, 2 or 3 realistically, because what we just talked about, he's going to bring probably double-digit guys from Penn State. He's going to bring a top 20 recruiting class this year. He's going to get this started right away. It's not like when he came to Penn State and had to rebuild for multiple reasons, but it's not like he had to, earn his, resume, really. He's got his resume now. Recruits are going to follow that. Transfers are going to follow that. Coaches are going to follow that. Virginia Tech will be competing in years. The only concern I would have is how long does he actually get to stay at Virginia Tech before the SEC calls in and says, hey, we want you. And I think that could be sooner rather than later. But for the, foreseeable future, what we see right now is him at Virginia Tech, 2 to 3 years, and they'll be in an ACC championship game without a doubt.
If we were recording this 5 years ago, I think we all would have looked at Justin right there and said, you're crazy. But in this era of the transfer portal and, the way recruiting works, I don't think it's that outlandish to say, I maybe go 4 or 5.
I think you guys would call me crazy regardless. I just think.
Oh, yeah, it's kind of thing to do.
But I mean, at the end of the day, the ACC is one of the lower Power 4. I would say it's honestly out of the Power 4, the weakest this year.
This year especially.
So, yeah. I mean, there's definitely some opportunity there. Dylan, Josh, do you have any additional comments on that, or we kind of want to move on?
I mean, I was just going to say, yeah, I'd give them 2 years. I think it really depends on what Florida State does with the Mike Norvell situation this year. I think if his job if the Florida State job has an opening, that becomes a pretty big hotbed for some coaching candidates, and they could be a team that really makes some noise. But yeah, Virginia Tech is finally going to be in a position to. I mean, everyone knocks James Franklin for not being able to win the big games, but I think for Virginia Tech, they would just be happy to get back to playing in a big game. It's been so long. I don't think they remember what that's like. So I give them 2 years. It just depends really on what the Florida State of it all is what's hanging in the balance.
And even when/if Franklin leaves, he is going to leave Virginia Tech in a lot more relevant of a place for the next head coach to come on and continue success. And
I don't think he should leave, quite frankly.
I think that in itself is good enough for Virginia Tech to be relevant again, because I think Lane Stadium is the best atmosphere when it's crowded.
Dylan, any additional thoughts on that, or you want to?
I mean, I think they're going to be pretty good. I think he's going to poach a nice chunk of Penn State's roster. I also think people forget, and I can't believe none of us have mentioned it. They're investing like over $225 million into that program. Bruce Arians is helping lead that connection with their very well-connected booster base. I don't think this is going to be a very long turnaround. I wouldn't be shocked too if Troy Hunn, the hotshot freshman who is committed to Penn State, I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up in the Tech pipeline somehow, and if he ends up starting for them next year, or even potentially Ethan Grunkemeyer. And there's your quarterback in there. You can kind of build it from there.
Signetti style. That's
a lot of storylines coming out of just one signing in the coaching carousel. We've got a Penn State signing coming hopefully soon for us Penn State fans, and then a lot of other jobs still open and maybe becoming open soon. So we'll talk about those.
About the Virginia Tech coach for 27 minutes. Just wait till Penn State hires their next coach. That's going to be like a 3-hour long episode.
Yeah, that'll be a longer episode.
Brian Kelly.
Hopefully it'll be maybe college or conference championship week, so we won't have as many games to talk about. But I digress. And let's move on. Let's look at our top 25 poll for this week. We do have the AP poll. We do not have the college football playoff ranking polls yet. But we will have them very soon, so we'll see. I don't expect much change. Ours really didn't change that much. The only change is a little bit in the top 4 and a little in the top 5. Ohio State, Georgia, Indiana, Texas A&M are all still top 5 teams, just shuffled out around a little bit. I will note that I believe, Josh, if we're correct, Georgia, Indiana, and Texas A&M all received similar amount of points.
I think they all have the same amount. Yeah,
or all same. Okay. So all the same points. So really 2 through 4 can be shuffled any way you would like it. Ole Miss is there. Oklahoma jumps up, basically swaps with Alabama after that result. Everything else is pretty much the same. I mean, you have some new teams in towards the bottom with Mizzou back in and UConn there, but those are teams that we don't really need to talk about too much. I mean, is there anything we really want to talk about? Maybe, I said this before we started with Josh, but Ohio State right now feels like the only team that's completely unblemished. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that, but I think right now Ohio State is a clear-cut number 1, and there's a battle for number 2 with Georgia, Indiana, and A&M, in my opinion.
Why is Georgia number 2 in our poll here?
Georgia can be anywhere from 2 to 4. They had the same amount of points.
It's just the way that it showed up. They all had the same amount of points.
Put it in there the same way.
I'll be honest. It's because I ranked them as my number 2 team in the country. And that's what got them in the tie. I'm the guy that is forcing this tie by putting Georgia number 2.
I think I put them.
And I
believe
believe right now with the way Indiana was last week, and really a slow start against Wisconsin, and then whatever the heck A&M was, I believe Georgia is better than both of those teams.
I would agree with that sentiment. I mean, I maybe not the Indiana part of it all, but I do think it's fun how last week we had the whole talk about Texas A&M being should have been the number 2 team or better than Indiana, and then they had the worst first half performance I think I've ever watched one football team have. And the only reason they weren't down by 50 is because South Carolina is just a bad football team. And Texas A&M gifted them 27 points or 30 points, whatever it was. But I think you brought up a good point, Thomas. I really think the only unblemished team currently is Ohio State. I mean, they've been not just perfect from a resume standpoint, that's what their record says, but they really haven't been in tough battles. And the tough battles they've been in have been against decent teams like Washington and things of that nature. So, yeah.
I mean, I know we talk about Indiana and A&M both being undefeated, but they have, Indiana has the Penn State win, which is only by 3 points. Texas A&M has a couple of close wins against not so great teams. So, I mean, Georgia, like I said, Dylan, can be, 2 through 4. I think right now, I honestly think I had Georgia at 3. I think they're slightly ahead of Indiana. I think A&M deserves to be 2 at this point. They think they're proving themselves. But honestly, 2 through 5, 2 through 6, in my opinion, I'd put in the same tier at this point. I know the records are different, the resumes are different, but I think as far as what you see on the field, the 2 through 6, there is not that much difference. But I do think Ohio State is that much farther ahead. If no other comments on anybody's polls or top 25, Justin, you have something?
Quickly, I've talked a lot this podcast. I just want to look at the college football committee in the eyes. I know they'll never see this, but look at our 18th team, our 20th team, our 21st team, our 24th, and our 25th. Non-power 4 teams. You can rank these teams and be fine with it. I don't think anyone would have a problem, maybe with UConn, but outside of that, I don't think anyone would have a problem with the amount of non-power 4 teams we have. And that's just, well, technically Notre Dame at 8 too, but that's not the point. 18, 20, 21, 24, 25. You can rank non-power 4 teams.
Especially with North Texas and JMU only having 1 loss.
At this point, they have to be ranked. I can't see how they're not, but
they have to be. Not to play devil's advocate, but the committee might look at, they finally ranked USF last week and then they lost, and they'll be like, oh, well, this is why you don't rank.
You can't think about other teams' losses when you're ranking.
Yeah, but they
teams,
do
though.
Sometimes. That's the problem.
I know.
If there are not at least 3 non-power 4 teams in this college football playoff poll tomorrow, I will be heavily disappointed because I think they have better resumes than a bunch of these teams.
I'll settle for 2. If they have North Texas and JMU, I'll be okay. If they have 3, that's a bonus. If they have 4 for whatever reason, that's an even better bonus and a good look for them. But
Texas and JMU should be automatics.
Yeah,
being 9-1.
And at this point, one thing I want to touch on. Hey, I know the ACC is maybe not much better, but is a better conference than a lot of the Group of 5. But hey, I would love to see a situation where somehow there is an ACC 3-loss champion and the ACC does not get a Group of 5 or does not get a bid to the college football playoff because JMU or North Texas, who are in different conferences, win their conference championships with one loss and are ranked higher than the ACC teams. I don't know. Maybe I'm just rooting for chaos at that point. I don't think the committee would do that, to be honest with you, even if the 3-loss ACC team is a champion. But hey, I think it'd be fun. Give the Group of 5 some additional rewards for being, a 1-loss team. But I'll digress from there.
I have one other point. This is for you, Thomas, and your editing skills. Why is the Navy logo so off-center?
It's actually been really bugging me this entire time.
Because the little star that they have in the top right makes it so hard to make it look like it's centered. I promise you.
All right. I'll let you slide.
I promise you that is the logo as I got it off of the internet. I just put it in the box and that's how it formatted it. And it centers it automatically. So
all right, then I won't get too mad at you.
I apologize. I think I said it to Josh when I was creating this. I said the Navy logo makes it so hard to make it look good in the box. But I apologize for that. I'll try better next week.
Thank you. Take a risk next week.
I tried to take a risk with just not formatting some of them, but I'll digress from there. Let's move on to our picks for the week. Like I said, this is a little bit of a weaker slate, but hey, weaker slates can prove big results. We all pretty much did well last week. All of us got our locks right. None of us got our long shots right. Dylan went 6 for 10 after claiming he was going to go 10 for 10.
12
and the
for
rest,
12, actually.
12 for 10 actually is what he said he was going to do.
Right. And the rest of us went 7 for 10. Quick update.
Would have been 8 for 10.
Huh?
I would have been 8 for 10.
Yeah. Well,
don't lose the bet.
Go Wolfpack. I'm at 63 points. Justin is at 62. Dylan and Josh at 61. And Grant is in the rear. I am 68 and 32. Justin 65 and 35. Dylan 60 and 40. And Josh 59 and 41. What happened?
What?
He's saying he's trying to give himself an extra win because
point.
you did.
Yeah.
Well, no, because you did quite literally change his pick last week.
I think my record should reflect my pick and my points can reflect yours, but we can
we can negotiate that off.
You can put an asterisk.
All righty. Well, let's dive into it. You see the first game on your screen. It is Nebraska and Penn State. You're asking, why are we picking this game? There's not really much involvement here. It's 2 backup quarterbacks. Well, Matt Rule facing Terry Smith. They were on the Temple staff together. Matt Rule gave Terry Smith one of his first jobs, or was it his first job? And Rule is a Penn State alum, played for them in the 1990s. So I figured it's an easy way to get our alma mater on the schedule. So, Josh, we'll start with you.
It's probably the only way to get the alma mater on the schedule with how terrible they've been playing this year. But look, I want to give a huge congratulations to huge congrats to Terry Smith for getting that first win. I think that celebration was awesome. I think the press conference this week was also awesome. I don't really know where to go with this game because it is 2 backup quarterbacks. I have liked the flashes that we've seen from Ethan Brunkmeyer. I'm going to go with Penn State, mostly just because of the fact that they somehow, for some reason, this is a primetime game. It really shouldn't be. But yeah, I think Terry Smith takes some momentum from his first win and turns it into 2.
Dylan?
I kind of tend to agree with Josh. I think that this is one of those things where they're going to catch lightning in the bottle. And I have a long-standing just rule where I don't think teams should hire interim head coaches. I think that sometimes we get blinded by a fun, fresh thing for a little bit of time. And I don't think the track record's ever really that strong. Obviously, for Penn State, it has worked out before. So maybe that is a bad take to have in this regard. But I think what's going to happen is Penn State's going to win this football game. They're going to win it in prime time. Then they're going to wrap up the season. And then they're going to win a bowl game, and it's going to be real hard to look at Terry Smith in the face and go, wow, how do you not hire that guy if he keeps putting on performances like this on the podium and, of course, on the field? And he's going to make it hard for them to have to say no to him, I think.
Justin?
Yeah, I think you guys mentioned, Ethan Grunkmeyer, the offense for Penn State getting a little bit better. The reason the offense got better was because they decided let's hand the ball off, and let's hand the ball off a crap ton to Katron Allen. And if you look at Nebraska's defense, 93rd in the country, allowing over 160 rush yards per game. So this is Penn State having to dominate the line of scrimmage again in the run game. And I think you have to give credit to Penn State's defense. I think they got better. I know you can say, it was Michigan State, but they did allow 40-something points to UCLA a couple weeks ago. So they found their rhythm too. Dylan Raiola, I've never liked him as a quarterback. That still stands. I think I've picked against Nebraska.
I would say he's not playing.
That's right. He's injured. Even more of a reason to pick Penn State.
2 backup quarterbacks.
It doesn't matter. I was always going to pick Penn State here. I only picked against them for that Oregon game. So give me the Nittany Lions.
Yeah, I'm going to take Penn State too. I think this will be a nice win for Terry Smith over Matt Rule. And hey, maybe there's an argument to be made that Terry Smith would be a better coach than Matt Rule in general. So give me Penn State. The next matchup is in the Mountain West. This
one's for Dylan.
Yeah, this one is for Dylan a little bit. I wanted to include them on here because I know despite, a couple of losses, UNLV is right there in a race for the college football playoff spot. Both teams are tied for second in the Mountain West. This is the Island Showdown Trophy, or the 9th Island Trophy. Not really sure why it's called that, but it is. It's Hawaii and UNLV. Josh, who do you like?
I'm going to be completely frank. I don't know a whole lot about this Hawaii football program because they play at the ass crack of dawn, pardon my French, but they do play in the middle of the night, and I can't ever watch them. So in honor of our good friend Dylan Vincent Price, who despite thinking that he was going to go 12 for 10, actually only did half of that last week, I will pick UNLV in his favor. That is quite frankly the only reason I'm doing it is because I'm a fan of Dylan Price. So
is Dylan going to go against UNLV here?
No.
Okay.
Go Rebels.
I don't think
what kind of question is that?
Football playoff, but I think it's been a great first season for Dan Mullen, and I think I'm actually really impressed by the fact he's not flirting with one of these bigger jobs, and he straight up denied that almost instantaneously, and he's going all in on this UNLV rebuild, and I love it. I think they're going to be a team to watch, sneaky G5 team to hang around for a little while here. So I'm going to go with UNLV yet again.
Justin?
I remember watching Hawaii's first game of the season against Stanford. Don't ask me why I watched it, but it was at a time that I could watch it, so I did watch it. And I remember their quarterback, Micah Alejado. He was limping. He was struggling through that game, but he had a bunch of, desire, passion, fight to get through it. And they beat Stanford. Then you realize how bad Stanford is this year, and you say that win means nothing. The other thing I look at is Hawaii's all three of Hawaii's losses this season have come when they've been on the road. They're traveling in this one. Dan Mullen is going to get a job somewhere after the rest of the coaching cycle kind of figures itself out. But for right now, he's coaching UNLV, and he's going to coach them to a 9-2 record.
Yeah, I really want to see this group of 5 race kind of heat up. And I think UNLV could be one of those dark horse teams that maybe somehow comes out with a good argument. So give me UNLV to get a win over a 7-3 team. That's maybe, pretty good. So I'll take UNLV. Next, we'll go to the ACC, a pair of 7-3 teams. It is Louisville and SMU. The Cardinals took a tough loss this past week, and SMU, they're still in the ACC title hunt. They're tied for first right now. They need a little bit of help, and they have to win out, obviously, but they can still make the ACC title game, which would obviously give them a college football playoff berth in all likelihood. Louisville has lost the last 3 matchups to SMU. Josh?
Yeah, as the resident ACC expert here, despite Justin also being a Virginia Tech fan, nuke this conference, blow it up. This is just pathetic. It's so pathetic to watch. I can't do this anymore. I've been a longtime fan of the ACC. I can't do it anymore. James Franklin, I can't believe I'm saying this. James Franklin, save the ACC, please. With that being said, you kind of summed it up pretty well, Thomas. Louisville is on a complete downward trend. They are not going to win another game this year, I don't think. I do think that they lose on the road to SMU, who has kind of been steadily rising after beating Miami. They had a stumble to start their season, did SMU, but again, a sneakily good 7-3 team. Now people are talking about them. I think they win this one at home.
Dylan?
Just like last year, SMU's aging really well as the season goes on and putting together a pretty good resume. I still think Louisville's a good team. I still think they have a really good defense, but I think it's one of those things where SMU's rising at the right time, and this game's going to be at home. So I'm going to go with the Mustangs.
Justin?
I wanted to pick SMU, but it'd be so boring if we have another clean sweep. So I'm going to actually deflect to Thomas first to let him make his pick, and then I'll decide mine.
Well, I have some picks that I would like to make later on. So this was going to be my SMU pick because I just was not happy. I actually did watch the first half of that Louisville game. I was just
bad.
Yeah, it was honestly so boring to watch. If I'm quite frank with it. So I'm going to take SMU just because, you know what, SMU was in some of our polls earlier in the season. So give me SMU.
Yeah, you know what? I put down Louisville. I'm going to go with Louisville. Jeff Brom's going to do something this weekend. He always finds a way in these types of games to pull out a win. So I got to be different somewhere, and this is where I'm going to be different so that we have a little bit of change in the first 3 rows of our graphic.
All right.
Way to make Thomas's job as the graphics editor a little harder.
Well, you know what? I didn't realize.
Maybe he'll put the Louisville logo off center too, just like that Navy logo.
I didn't realize how much last week we all picked together until I made the graphics. So I appreciate you doing
We
that.
all did
Justin.
pretty good, though.
I know where it's called taking a risk.
Well, yeah. Let's see if someone
Love
takes
to
a
see
risk.
Josh do one. Take a risk sooner rather than later.
I normally do.
All right. Well, let's see if he takes a risk in this game. It's Kentucky, who's 5-5 on the road to play number 12 Vanderbilt. Again, these rankings are AP rankings, so not college football rankings. Wildcats have something to play for. They're 1 win away from bowl eligibility, and the Commodores are right on the bubble of the college football playoff and need a little bit of help. They need to obviously win. So, Josh, who do you like?
Yeah, I would just like to rebuttal really quickly that at the start of the year, I was taking the most risks. That's why I was in last place. And now I've tried to, kind of even it out a little bit by having a few long shots that have gone
What
my
do you
way.
mean was in last place? Are you not still in last place?
Technically,
Well, no, because Grant, we started actually picking up Grant. I'm tied in last place with Dylan now, and it's by 2 points. So settle down there, bud. Regardless, Vanderbilt's 2 losses are just some pretty darn good teams. I mean, the Texas loss after they got smoked by Georgia doesn't look as good, but I will trust Diego Pavia at home more times than I can count on my fingers. And this is really not a good Kentucky team at all. This is a bottom feeder in the SEC. This one should be a blowout for Vanderbilt. I'm not taking the risk here. Absolutely not.
Dylan?
Skip me.
Justin?
Yeah, if this game was flipped, as in this was being played at Kentucky, I'd be picking Kentucky here, but it's being played at Vandy. They kind of need that bounce back. They're on the fringe of a potential playoff spot. I've got Vandy winning this week for no other reason outside of Diego Pavia, really.
Yeah, I agree, actually. If this was at Kentucky, I think I would take the upset as well.
Sure, you would.
No, this was one of the games I did debate a little bit, but because it's at home, I'll take Vanderbilt too. Vanderbilt, the hype has just gone completely down with those 2 losses, and I don't know. I think they're a good team. I just don't know how much noise they can make in the college football playoff. So, Dylan, I'll go back to you.
It's hard because there's a part of me that wants to say, let's get crazy. Let's get wild. Mark Stoops saves his job with a top, 15 upset on the road. But then I think of Diego Pavia, and I think of this Vandy team, and I think that this isn't where their story ends. I think there's going to be another upset that I predict instead, and then that team that gets upset, I think, is going to end Vandy's run in a short order. So if you can read the tea leaves here, I'm going to go with Vandy, but I had to hold my tongue because I think there's another team at some point that's going to get Vandy's number and upset them.
All righty. Well, with that, we're going to sweep Vanderbilt, move on to the Big 12. Kansas State also 5-5. Utah also 8-2. Number 13 in the. Oh, Justin, you have a pause.
I just want to go first.
Oh, okay. Okay. We'll let you go first. This is the first meeting between these 2 teams, which I thought they had met in recent years, but maybe not. Kansas State is trying to become bowl eligible. Utah has a chance to win out and make the Big 12 title game. So this is obviously a big game for both sides. Justin, we'll start with you.
If Utah wins out and BYU and Texas Tech continue to do what they're doing, and by chance, USC beats Oregon this week, is there a realistic possibility that the Big 12 has 3 teams in the college football playoff, as does the SEC, and the Big 10 is knocked down to just 2 this year? Probably not, but it sounds fun, and I root for chaos. That being said, this game doesn't do anything on my chaos meter because of the way Utah has handled all of its opponents except for Texas Tech and BYU. So I have Utah, but I wanted to bring up that chaos scenario because everyone's talking about what if the ACC doesn't get in and 2 group of 5s get in. Well, there's also a scenario where the Big 10 loses a spot, the Big 12 gets 3. That seems more fun to me, especially with how Arizona State played Texas last year in the college football playoffs. We all remember that game. So I've got Utah here, and I'm going to probably pick Utah, BYU, and Texas Tech the rest of the way for the fun and the excitement of that scenario.
Josh?
Yeah, Utah's going to win this game because they're not playing a team by the name of Texas Tech or BYU. It's pretty much that simple. So, yeah, I cannot believe we were very high on Kansas State to start this year. It's just a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, I'm going to, since Dylan is having some technical issues. Oh, he's back. I'll go real quick. I'm just going to take Utah. Listen, Kansas State barely just beat an Oklahoma State team who is 1-9 this year and has not gotten a Big 12 win. If Kansas State had won that handedly, maybe I'd think about it a little more, but I'm not going to. So give me Utah. Dylan?
Ditto.
All righty. Let's move on to an SEC matchup. Number 20, Tennessee is 7-3. They're on the road to play Florida, who is 3-7. We know Florida. We know this team. We've talked about them a lot. They beat Texas at home. They nearly beat Georgia. They nearly beat Ole Miss. Tennessee, they took their losses have been good losses, I would say. Georgia in overtime, Bama on the road, and Oklahoma by 6 points. So narrow margins there. Josh, who do you like?
This one's a really fun one because this is the SEC's best offense versus one of the SEC's best defenses in Florida. I mean, by all statistical measures, Tennessee somehow has the best offense and yet has continuously lost all of their big games. They've outgained all their opponents when they lose these games, and they just don't have that clutch factor. A lot of it is that Josh Heupel, I just don't think is a good clock manager when it comes down to it, especially in crunch time. But I think that I'm not going to call it a statement win for Tennessee. This game's kind of a coin flip for me, but I think Tennessee really needs to kind of set the narrative that that number next to their name has some sort of merit. I don't necessarily agree that Tennessee should be a top 25 team with the fact that they've lost the only good teams they've played against. But I do think that offense wins games, but defense wins championships. But when your offense is run by DJ Lagway, you're winning not very many games. So I'm going to have Tennessee winning this one. I think it'll be close, though. Tennessee always wins their games close, and Florida loses their games close.
Dylan?
I had an opportunity to watch that Ole Miss Florida game the other night, and I watched DJ Lagway make some bad decisions at points. And I watched Florida, obviously coachless now, just like Penn State and LSU and whatever. And I watched a team that, did have some fire, did have some fight, did have some pizzazz. And I think I'm going to change my tune on something here. I promised when DJ Lagway broke my heart earlier in the show this season that I would never do it again. I would never buy into Billy Napier, and I certainly wouldn't buy into DJ Lagway again. But I saw some spark. I saw some spunk in that kid the other night, and I saw a team that they've already done it once this year. So why can't they do it again in Gainesville on Saturday? Chomp, chomp, baby.
All righty, he's going with Florida. Justin, are you rocking with the Gators?
We like math on this show, right? And I have two decimal points to give you. I've got 0.3 repeating, and I've got 0.143. What that equates to, 0.3 repeating is 1 of 3, and 0.143 is 1 of 7 rounded. What that means in terms of, why do you care? It's the ratio of big wins this season. Tennessee has 7 wins. Only one of them is a big win, I think, right? Or is it 0?
It's 0.
I mean, but yeah, borderline 0.
All right, so that makes it easier. 0.000 repeating, 0 of 7. Florida has 3 wins. One of them is a ranked win against Texas in the swamp. Same situation as here. I think Josh Heupel, his seat is getting warmer and warmer. I don't think it happens this year, but I'm just saying, I think we got to start dialing up that meter a little bit. And you know what? I said after Florida burned me last time that I wouldn't do it because they helped me because I picked them against Texas. But just like Dylan here, and I had it on the sheet before he picked, I'm going with the chomp this week.
Wow. Sometimes I don't like going last, but I think this is a good opportunity. I'm going to ride with Florida too. That was one of those picks I had down. I told you,
Now I'm not going to lie.
What?
I want to pick Tennessee now. I'm not going to lie.
Go ahead. I think.
Oh, leave me on an island. I could use this if they pull it out.
Listen, Tennessee was a team when I made my poll that I did not want to rank. Like, I'm looking at them with 3 losses, and I did not want to rank them. But unfortunately,
was that because I had the best argument of all time a few weeks ago when we talked?
Well, no. Unfortunately, their 3 losses have been good, so they're good enough to be ranked. I guess at 24 is what I have them at.
The question is, what's more important? bad wins or good losses. And
Yeah, there's a fair point there. I mean,
that's an argument that has been tearing up the college football world for the last 2 years now. And we'll never know the answer, unfortunately.
And
how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? It's kind of
about
that
as many tries it takes Tennessee to win a ranked game.
Yeah, maybe like 6, 7 around there.
No,
all right, let's end the podcast now.
Yeah, we need to hang this up. But no, I'm going to take Florida too. I feel like this is just a point where I want Tennessee to lose, so I have to stop talking about them because I really don't like this Tennessee team. I was high on them in the beginning, like first 2 or 3 weeks, and now I just do not like them at all. So give me Florida. Let's move on to the Big 12, a big matchup here. Number 11, BYU is 9-1 on the road to play Cincinnati, who is 7-3. BYU has to win out at this point to be in the Big 12 title. They're kind of control their own destiny. If they lose, they are likely not going to be in. Cincinnati's coming off a loss after they were ranked inside the college football playoff rankings. It's an interesting matchup, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting, except for the fact that, like, in the same way that we talk about Tennessee being a 7-3 team with no big wins, that's exactly what Cincinnati is, but just worse because they don't have the SEC's best offense or the Big 12's best offense like Tennessee does. BYU has one of the best offenses and also one of the best defenses in the Big 12. And I think that they're going to come in and they're going to steamroll. Again, I know Justin's going to make a comment because I'm not taking – it's one of the few weeks I haven't taken any risks yet, but I just don't really see this being a week where we're going to see a lot of risks, and especially not a Cincinnati team that doesn't have a defining win and a BYU team that has a couple defining wins. I think that they know that they control their own destiny, and they're going to make sure that they get themselves in the Big 12 championship game.
Dylan? No, you don't have any thoughts on the game?
Go with the Super Soakers.
Wow, I don't know if we can say that one.
I don't know.
I think they showed that they aren't going to play with their food this season, and I think that they've done that to this point. The only loss is a game that I think the Big 12 probably paid them to lose so that they could get the best Big 12 championship matchup possible. I feel pretty convinced that BYU is the much, much, much better team in this game. And the Brendan Sorsby Heisman campaign that lasted 1 week, led by Dylan Price, has quickly died and died fast and painful death. I'm going to go with the team that I said already. And I'm just not going to say the terminology I used.
Yeah, let's hope that let's hope your employer likes that one.
We'll leave it there. Justin, your pick.
Yeah, I once said I would stop picking against BYU, and then I picked against BYU, and I was right. So conventional wisdom would say pick against them again. I won't be doing that. I'm going to go with BYU. They're the much better team in this matchup. The one difference when we're comparing Cincinnati to Tennessee is Cincinnati's losses, at least one of them was a blowout. Tennessee hasn't gotten blown out yet, so I guess – Tennessee could be ranked like 38th in the nation and maybe Cincinnati 39th, maybe something like that. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go with BYU here to move to 10-1 because it keeps my chaos scenario alive still too.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to take BYU. I want to start eliminating these teams that are like right on the inside of the top 25 that I think should be ranked. And Cincinnati is one of them at this point, unfortunately. I think they're like in that 25 to 30 range right now. So give me BYU to get a win. And like you said, Justin, I think this Big 12 title game is going to be, or title game race is going to be interesting. Let's move back to the ACC. It's Pitt, who is 7-3 after a loss to Notre Dame. Like I said, they didn't lose 110-0, but they did lose pretty handedly. Georgia Tech is 9-1. They're 15th in the AP, and they control their own destiny to the ACC title and the college football playoff, really. So, Josh, who do you like?
I mean, I don't like either of these teams the way that I've never really liked Pitt this season. I don't think that I think we talked about it last week. I think it was Dylan said that Pitt was kind of ranked as a resume booster for Notre Dame, and maybe that was a little bit true. That game was not good at all from a Pitt standpoint. Offense was bad. Defense was worse. This being at home for Georgia Tech helps a little bit. I think Georgia Tech is kind of done with that part of the schedule where they're in the mix of, are they going to finally lose control? Or are they going to kind of, get right back on the ship? I think being back at home, playing a team that will be running the outside of the cusp of the CFP top 25 will help them. I think that Georgia Tech will find a way to get this done. And again, you really have to start focusing towards that game against Georgia afterwards. That could be a potential, looking ahead moment for Georgia Tech. But I think that with the way that Pitt's record shows how decent they've been this year, I don't think Georgia Tech will take them lightly. I don't really like either of these teams, especially just the ACC in general this year. But I will go with Georgia Tech. I will ride with Brent Key until he proves me wrong.
Dylan?
Well, I said it last week, and Josh stole the kind of win from my sails there by bringing it up again. But for the second consecutive week, I'll say that was as clear as day, a ranking to rank them. You look at Pitt's resume, their best win on the season was a wilting Florida State team, a Boston College team that apparently, even though they aren't great, is capable of pulling off some close games. Syracuse, NC State. Their losses, West Virginia, Louisville, and now Notre Dame. And 2 of those 3 games were at home. I look at this stretch, and I said it a week ago, I wouldn't be shocked if they lose out. You have Georgia Tech fighting for their season, Miami fighting for theirs, and Pat Narduzzi can say all he wants about fighting for his season too and focusing on the ACC here, but I think, kind of put yourself in an unwinnable situation last weekend, and now I think the tides have turned. You go into Bobby Dowd Stadium, and I think Georgia Tech wins this game, and I think it's going to be by 2 scores. I feel pretty confident in that regard.
Justin?
Yeah, so I think to correct both of you, I was the one who first said that Pitt was a resume booster for Notre Dame, and that's why they were ranked. But
that's
I
true.
don't think you were the first.
No, probably I was because I talk first usually. But besides the point, I know Dylan agreed with me. I was really just trying to get under Josh's skin there. Dylan just went through Pitt's wins. They're not impressive in the ACC. And maybe you look at the common opponent, Boston College. But at the end of the day, that's a Boston College team that they've still got fight. It was their senior day. It was, them still looking for their first win of the season. But this is a Georgia Tech team that is much better than they played against Boston College and much better than they played the week before against NC State. And it all starts with Haynes King. I just quite frankly don't think Pitt will have an answer for Haynes King. Notre Dame stripped Pitt of their spot in the top 25 club this past week, and Georgia Tech is going to strip Pitt of their ACC championship aspirations this week. So give me Georgia Tech. And honestly, to one up Dylan, I'm going to do it by 3 scores because I think Haynes King has a day against Pitt. I wonder if Pat Narduzzi finally thinks it's a must-win game.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, if this isn't a must-win game, then what is? Because I don't know what the definition is anymore. But listen, it's a must-win game for Pitt. It's clear that they weren't focused on Notre Dame because they could lose 110-0, but they can't lose 110-0 to Georgia Tech. And you know what? I'll take Pitt with the chances that they don't lose or that they do beat Georgia Tech. And you know what? The ACC has proven this year that there are no true contenders that can really win every single game handedly. And you know what? Georgia Tech has its up and downs this year. I do like Georgia Tech, but I'm in this chaos scenario where Justin is with the Big 12. I want the ACC to be the worst conference, maybe even compared to some Group of 5 conferences. And that starts with Georgia Tech losing. So give me Pitt with a game where Pitt seemed to focus more on Georgia Tech than they did Notre Dame last week. That
take is going to, of you taking Pitt, is going to age like an armpit without deodorant horribly. But I'm glad you took a risk.
For the sake of for the sake of our graphic this week, we need somebody to kind of
tell these teams to stop playing terribly, and then we can talk.
That's true.
It's not our fault.
Maybe if we didn't have Bama against the Citadel this week, it would help out things.
Yeah, I agree.
Next year when they finally have 9 conference games, it's going to be great.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to the SEC. Speaking of it, number 23, Mizzou is 7-3. They're on the road to play at number 8, Oklahoma, who is 8-2. Oklahoma got a big win over Alabama on the road, which I think was not expected from a lot of us besides Justin. Mizzou did beat Mississippi State to go over their win total, projected win total. The Sooners cannot make the SEC championship game, so for the college football playoff, they really do need these last 2 wins against Mizzou here and then LSU next week. So, Josh, who do you like in this matchup?
Yeah, I think that Oklahoma really proved something this past week, and it's that, it doesn't matter how bad John Mateer looks at times or how slow the offense is, their defense is going to win them games and carry them. And that's what they did. 3 turnovers. They were outgained by, I think, over 200 yards against Bama, but it comes down to it. Defense wins your championships, or at least in this case, will win you a game at home against the Missouri Tigers when they have a backup, a guy that's not Bo Brio playing. I do still like Zollers. But this is, I think it'd be his first road start, unless Mizzou was first road start for him.
Yeah.
And it's not a good environment to go on the road against. I think Oklahoma's going to have a field day. It's going to be I feel like it might be similar to when Jackson Arnold and Auburn came to town earlier in the season, where 10 sacks were given up. Might be something similar.
When the experiment was still being tested?
The experiment was still being talked about, yes. I think we can call it a failed one at this point in the season. But yeah. Oklahoma about however much they want, and I will kick things off with a boomer.
Sooner.
Wow, one. Wow, only one.
Whoa, wait a minute.
Wow.
What does that mean, Dylan?
I don't know if that means they're picking Mizzou or if they just hate my guts that much. We'll find out now. So.
Dylan, you look like you're pondering.
I think John Mateer's back. I think his hands, healed up. I think things are starting to lean in the direction of Oklahoma. The defense has tightened up. Things are starting to roll in the right direction, and it feels as though Oklahoma is back. Matt Zollers is pretty good, but I don't think he's going to do great against the Venables defense. It's like when a rookie quarterback goes against one of the top defenses in the NFL. So I'll say it, Boomer.
Sooner.
No. Screw you, man.
I'm just gonna back everyone at this point. Justin,
that's so out of spite and hateful. Screw you, man. First time I go first, and you have to.
Hey, that. Justin's got this look on his face, and I have a feeling he might go Mizzou here, or he's just trying to fake us out.
If there is ever a letdown spot for a team, it is when you go on the road and beat a ranked opponent. Then you go back on the road for your game after that. Now, there was a bye week thrown in there, but it doesn't matter. You played 2 straight games on the road against SEC opponents, ranked SEC opponents, depending on who you ask. That is critical. And like the epitome, when you look at college football in history, of letdown spots. You go put all your effort into silencing Neyland Stadium, and then you put all your effort into beating Alabama, who, depending on who you are, probably had them ranked 1 through 4 in the nation. And the matter of fact is, Brent Venables has had an up and down tenure at Oklahoma. And the one thing he has failed to do really is win when it mattered most. And you're probably going to say, Justin, he just won when it mattered most against Alabama. Yeah, but then you move on. When does it actually matter most? Against a good, not great, Missouri team with your college football playoff hopes. Now you think they're firmly in position, but you play Missouri and then LSU. So you're not out of it just yet. You're not out of, this possibility of not making the playoffs if you're Oklahoma. And look, this is a Missouri team that just had Ahmad Hardy run for 300 yards. And I don't care if you want to tell me it was Mississippi State. He just ran for 300 yards in their last game.
Only the second 300-yard game in Mizzou history.
And Oklahoma's defense, where has their struggle point been? Definitely not on the ground. Their defense ranks 4th in the nation, allowing just 82.2 yards per game. This is going to be a tough test for Missouri and for Zollers. But they are going to try and get things going with one of the best backs in the nation, and they are going to do just that. Give me Missouri to upset Oklahoma on the road, and that is why I did not respond when you guys said boomer, because I don't know what Missouri's chant is, but I'm going with it. Go Tigers.
It's M-I-Z, and you respond with Z-O-U.
Oh, M-I-Z.
Oh, they know how to spell down there.
Z-O-U, that's right. Give me Mizzou here.
Listen, I love that you shouted out Ahmad Hardy because that is a terrific performance. I think he is one of the more underrated prospects
And he kills in the college football video game, by the way, guys.
Yeah. I've played with him a couple times. He's legit. But like I said, 300 yards, second time, just the second time in Mizzou history. But how often is that going to how often are you going to run for 300 yards? You're not. And I don't think against a much better Oklahoma defense, you're going to run for 300 yards again. I think he still goes over 100 easily and has a score or two. But at the end of the day, Zollers only had to I think he was 8 for 12 for like 150 yards against Mississippi State. He didn't have to throw much. If Mizzou doesn't have to throw much, they'll be in good shape. But if they do, that's when you run into trouble, especially against a young quarterback. So I'm going to take Oklahoma simply because the defense will, I think, like you said, Justin, match up with the run well. And I think Zollers won't be able to overcome going into a road environment like that. So give me Oklahoma. Our final matchup is our game of the week. It's a Big Ten matchup. Number 16 USC is 8-2. They're on the road to play number 6 Oregon, who is 9-1. USC with a nice ranked win over Iowa. Oregon easily beat Minnesota. College Game Day is back in Eugene for the second time this season. And Oregon can make the Big Ten championship with some help. Obviously, Indiana and Ohio State have it decently locked up. And USC is still pushing for a college football playoff spot. It'll take a little bit, but this win is crucial for them, Josh.
Yeah, I think you brought up, Oregon's chances of, making the Big Ten championship, and there are a lot of teams still have a lot to play for. And I think for Oregon, a lot of people are still looking for them to have that key signature win. I know that people don't really want to give them credit for that win at Penn State, but that's still a great win at the time. That was still a top 3 roster at the moment in college football. And I'll say it again. That loss for Penn State broke them. It broke them mentally. I think it's the same way that Georgia Tech beating Clemson kind of broke Clemson in a way too, as well. So that out of the way, I don't know I love this USC offense. I love what Jaden Mayava does. I love the fact that Lincoln Riley has found a way to get somewhat of a defense out there on the West Coast just a little bit. We talk a lot about the fact that Lincoln Riley struggles when he has to go into multiple time zones. Here's the good thing about this game. Doesn't have to switch a time zone to go on the road and play Oregon. This is an Oregon team that has been faltering at times. Not a good win against Wisconsin. Last second win against Iowa on the road. There's a lot of voodoo in Iowa City, but regardless, this is my risk of the week, so to speak. But give me USC. You talked about the fact that Oregon needs a way to try and make the Big Ten championship. This is USC making a statement that they deserve to be in the college football playoff with that offense. I think this one, see a combined 80 points between the two teams or more. But I like USC. I want to see the Trojans win this one.
Dylan?
I was kind of looking through some things here and doing a bit of a deep dive. I watched part of the Oregon game, caught a little bit of USC. And there's 2 guys I want to pinpoint because I don't think enough of the country is talking about them. First off, since that loss to Indiana, this Oregon offense felt like they needed another facet, another element. How about going to a freshman in Jordan Davison? The Santa Ana, California native has been exceptional. He had 59 yards in that game against Indiana, kind of a coming out performance. And then he followed that up with 2 back-to-back 100-yard games, and then 100 yards over the last 2. And then he had 2 touchdowns in that game against Minnesota. He's got big playability, and to me, he's the perfect complementary back to Noah Whittington. And it feels like you've kind of got a good thunder and lightning again, kind of like you had last year with Jordan James. And it feels like that ground game has started to get going, and it can kind of compensate for Dante Moore. And if he makes some mistakes, turns the ball over, whatever it may be. Then you look at the USC side of the ball, and Josh hit the nail on the head. This is not your USC defensive hold. D'Anton Lynn said to us when Justin and I caught up with him a year ago that it was going to be kind of a multi-year thing. This wasn't going to be a quick flip of the switch and a turnaround. And I think that's what made a lot of fans like him for the Penn State opening a year ago, because he's a calculated guy, he's a smart guy, and he's investing in that program just as much as they're investing in his defense. And you're seeing the results. And I think one guy then on that side of the ball you got to shout out is Bishop Fitzgerald. 3 pass breakups, 5 interceptions. They're getting a lot of production in their pass rush. They have 24 sacks this season. They're forcing turnovers, although 5 of those 10 picks do come from Fitzgerald. They're a multifaceted team because we've all talked about their offense. We know what they can do on the offensive side of the ball. They're one of, not the best offense in many, many regards in the country. And so to me, that's what has made this game so hard to pick, is that Oregon got that extra element of their offense that they so desperately needed. And I think was even glaring in that Penn State game. And that's working for them now. And then you look at the USC defense, and this isn't your mama's USC defense. They're actually figuring out how to play football under Lane Kiffin and ball out here a little bit, or not Lane Kiffin, Lincoln Riley rather, and ball out a little bit. I don't know. I keep going back and forth. I think at the end of the day, it's tough for me to go against a Trojans team that I've been all in on all year long. But then I also then have to look at where this game is being played, a raucous environment, Autzen Stadium, and puddles. It's almost Thanksgiving. Puddles is going on the grill. Give me USC.
Yes. Turducken is on the menu this year.
That broke my heart. It hurt me so bad. Look at his face. He doesn't want to be cooked.
That's like
he already lost his head once this year. Dylan's going to make him do it again.
I think this USC team's just a deeper team at the end of the day, and I think they're poised for that statement win of Lincoln Riley's era.
Two USC picks so far. Justin, I know you're high on this USC team. Are you going to make it 3?
I don't like that face.
I don't really know what I'm going to do here. Just kidding. I 100% know what I'm going to do here. Look, I thank Dylan a lot for going through both sides and making my life a lot easier. To say one thing, Dante Moore is a Heisman candidate, probably top 5 in the nation. Other people will disagree. I think he is. He's probably fringe top 5. As much as Mayava's been great, he's not a Heisman candidate. I think the quarterback position is going to matter because this is a game where I can see both defenses, even with regards to what Danton Lynn has been able to do at USC, even with regards to what Oregon has been able to do on their defensive side. With Mateo Uiagalelei on their defensive line, I just like saying that name so much. And their other studs, to be honest. I think this is going to be a shootout. And I know that USC has played in more shootouts than Oregon, but Oregon hasn't really had to get into one. And you can say that they lost to Indiana and you could have made that a shootout. Well, Indiana's defense is better than that of what USC is bringing to the field. On another note, it's the simple matter of fact that Lincoln Riley does struggle in traveling. I know they're staying in the same time zone. I know they're staying on the West Coast, but he does struggle when they go on the road. And there's been a lot of rumors, whether they've been, real rumors or just complete speculation and throwing things out there for fun surrounding what Lincoln Riley's future at USC is, not in terms of the administration doing anything, but maybe him moving on to one of these other jobs that have come open. But I just can't pick against, as much as I want to for my chaos scenario of Oregon losing and 3 Big 12 teams. I just don't see Oregon losing this game. I think they've got the home field advantage. And I just think at the end of the day, the USC story has been fun. I was high on them for so long, but at the end, I'm still questioning their wins, their big wins compared to their losses with Notre Dame and Illinois, who I think, Oregon is better than both of those teams. So give me Puddles. I will come and save you off the grill at the last minute, which is rare because I love food. I've never had any duck before, but I love food. Ew, not that type of food. But I love food, and I there we go. But I'm gonna come save Puddles. I'm gonna take Oregon in this one.
I think there's some good points here. There's one point I don't think Moore has been playing like a Heisman candidate recently, and especially in a couple of big games. You look at the Indiana game, 21 of 34 for 186, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions.
A month ago in the Indiana game?
What's that?
A month ago in the Indiana game?
Against Iowa, 13 of 21.
I thought you said Indiana.
What's that?
Did you see the weather in that Iowa game?
I understand, but at the end of the day, he has had 2 touchdown passes in the last 3 games. And I understand this Minnesota game he played really well. 27 of 30, 306, 2 touchdowns. But against Wisconsin, 9 of 15, 86 yards. And I get he didn't have to do much in those games. But I just was making the point that I don't think he can be called a Heisman contender right now when he hasn't been doing much statistically. That was my point, just to say that I am going to pick Oregon because I think at the end of the day, this
You were
game,
going USC with all that.
this game is in Eugene, and I like USC a lot.
Who's Gene?
But I think they just play much better at home, and I think Oregon needs to get a couple of wins here to really make a push for the college football playoff. Because if you lose this game, you're at 2 losses with, who's your best win? Iowa at that point? There's a case that you may get bumped out for some of those Big 12 teams that you mentioned, Justin, or maybe another SEC team slides in. So I think Oregon gets a nice win here over USC. And I do think Dante Moore has a Heisman moment in this game at some point. So I'll give you that. Let's move on to our locks and long shots of the week and kind of wrap this up. Josh, who's your lock?
Come back to me.
Dylan, who's your lock?
Not too far from me in Jonesboro, Arkansas. There's a team, the Arkansas State Red Wolves, who are going to have Matt Berry there. They're going to have Sports Center there. That is the cap off of their Sports Center on campus season. So there's already a lot of juice flowing out there in Jonesboro. And this is a team that's still longing to go bowling. They have yet to lock it up. So I think that's another piece of the puzzle here. They're a competitive team. They're a lot of fun. And I think they're a team that is vying for a potential Sun Belt spoilers. Then, currently looking at the Sun Belt East standings, it's pretty much JMU's. But in the West, maybe somehow, some way, if Southern Miss, it would take some magic to happen. Southern Miss would have to drop 2, and then it would be a dicey situation because you also have the head-to-head. But, I'm not going to get too much into the Sun Belt here. But there is a scenario where Arkansas State could still make it into the Sun Belt Championship. And I like some chaos in the lesser conferences. So give me Arkansas State to go bowling.
Justin?
Look, I was really trying to find a way to say Cal's quarterback's name, but I'm just looking at a bunch of letters again. Saga Palutale, maybe.
Sure.
We've talked about him on this podcast before. I think he's one of the best freshman quarterbacks in the country. Cal is only favored by 3 going against Stanford of all teams. I already kind of took a shot at Stanford earlier when we were talking about Hawaii. I have Cal as my lock of the week.
I'm going to go to the SEC and
good for
stay stay close to Dylan somewhat. Fayetteville, Texas is -9.5.
What did you just call it?
Fayetteville?
Fayetteville. Sorry,
He's in Nevada, and now all of a sudden everything.
I know. I was looking at something else on my sheet,
syllable.
and I said it wrong. My apologies.
You were looking at something else. It's a well-known city.
I get it. I got distracted. Okay, Texas is -9.5 against Arkansas, so I'll take Texas. Josh, your long shot. Or wait, Josh, your lock.
Yeah, we decided that the max it can be is like 14, right?
Yeah.
Okay, JMU is somehow only 13.5 over Wazoo, so they're going to win that one for sure. That's my pick.
Well, funny you say that because that's my long. No, I'm just.
Oh, are we doing that again?
No.
Josh, do you want to lead off our long shots?
Yes, I will lead off our long shots. I'm going to go to the Big 12. I understand that Arizona just had a quote-unquote big win against Cincinnati, but I am still a believer in Sawyer Robinson and this Baylor team. They're underdogs by 6.5 points. I don't know. I like the fact that Sawyer Robinson's got like over 3,200 yards and 30 touchdowns on the year. I think he'll have another 5 this weekend on the road. I'll take Baylor as my long shot.
Dylan?
Taking a look at the MAC postseason picture right now, that also is rather interesting. Ohio and Parker Navarro lost to Western Michigan, which now complicates things. Western Michigan now the favorites to win the MAC. You'd have them against Central Michigan, Western versus Central. That feels exciting. Then you have Ohio still in the mix, Toledo there, Buffalo too, and Miami, Ohio. It's a real gauntlet in the MAC this year. But one of the bottom feeder teams of the MAC this year, a team we all know very well because we got to see them be Cinderella stories last year and upset Notre Dame. They're 3-7. They're 2-4 in conference. They're out of the running for the conference championship. But why not a little bit of chaos? And I'm going to go with Northern Illinois as my long shot to upset Western Michigan. They are at home. They had a quarterback made his debut this week, Jalen Macon, making bacon, baby. He's gonna get me into the back into the stratosphere where I can win this whole damn thing. So I'm gonna go with Macon, and I'm gonna go with some Tuesday night action, baby. That's what point of the year we're at.
Justin?
I almost went to the MAC as well, and I almost picked the Kent State Golden Flashes, who are having a resurgence year under their new head coach, but I didn't. I went to the Big Ten, and I went to a coach that is well known and a coach that I'm shocked doesn't come up more often when openings come up, and that's PJ Fleck. And I have Minnesota, who is, for whatever reason, 3.5-point underdogs against Northwestern on the road at Wrigley Field. We all saw how Wrigley did not help Northwestern against Michigan. I know Northwestern's defense has played above expectations this year, but I'm higher on Minnesota still this year. They're 6-4. PJ Fleck seems to always finish 8-4. So by rule, he has to win 2 more games. So I'm going to give him the win against Northwestern. Give me Minnesota plus 3.5 as my long shot.
There you go.
I like that pick. I like this
man.
pick as well. Missouri State
Did you
went
wait?
from
Time out. You just went from complimenting my pick to straight up complimenting your own. I like this pick as well. And then it's your own pick.
He's transitioning.
I'm going to go with Missouri
State.
State.
It's Missouri State, or is it not Missouri State?
It's Missouri State, although a lot of people here say Missouri. So,
is that why you say Fayetteville?
I'm telling you, our mayor Branham says Missouri. So
our mayor? Do you mean mayor?
You're from Chicago, basically. You don't get to act like you're
guys, I'm taking
negative.
Missouri State plus 6.5. They've won 5 straight. They're 7-3 in their first year in the FBS, bowl eligible. Give me Missouri State. This has been another episode of Locks and Longshots. We'll see you next week.